Hi, it's the girl out there right here with you. It's me, Cindy. And this week, I'm so very excited, so very, very excited to have not Dear Diary Stephanie, my other Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you.
How are you?
Feeling good.
Good.
Feeling really good.
We are going to take one big deep breath in and one big deep breath out, because this is a very bold, big move for Stephanie to be here with me and doing this podcast. So thank you, Stephanie.
I'm so happy to be here.
So for all the listeners, I think a lot of people do know you just from, because I share your just happy moments all the time on mine. But I thought I would share a little bit about how we met. And so we met I'm sorry, my child is fine. So we started working together almost a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it was in November.
Yes. And so do you want to share a little bit about that? And then we'll get into who you are.
Yeah. So I had heard you on a podcast, and it's so interesting because I was so drawn to your voice.
Oh.
And I am not like a person that would just book something like that, but it was so funny because after I did it, I thought, oh my gosh, I just booked a session. That is so crazy, and then we met and I felt so comfortable, like as if I have already like met you before. It was just this really beautiful, space. And then that's when then you educated me about Reiki. We did a first Reiki session together, and I had never experienced anything like that before. And it just started just a lot of things in my life, like all these puzzle pieces. I just started to realize that energy, with Reiki. And then I just was so like, I just had to learn more. And we did Reiki together. And I'm now level 3 on my way to the masters, which I totally want to get, I want to be a Reiki master for sure. And yeah, then we did our mentorship together. I was so honored to do that with you. And I was just telling you before we hopped on this call that I dusted off the old journal that I wrote in the whole time we worked together. And it's so crazy because I'm looking back going, oh my gosh, I experienced a lot with you.
Yes.
So yeah. So I'm not sure what you want me to elaborate on.
Well, you're going to elaborate on everything because, I like to push the buttons with you and get you into the zone where you're still comfortable, but a little uncomfortable. And that's sort of the reason why I wanted you to come on this podcast. One, because you are such magic, and you give me Reiki. You're not, I say, obviously people don't know that you're not in Canada, and that you and I have never met, and you've done all of your levels of Reiki training being distance with me. And now I get to enjoy your energy from here. So you have such a gift. And you're so talented at it. And I know that others have also experienced your gift with your hands. Well, I say your hands, but yet it's energy. And then I think also just unpacking a little bit. So you had come to me at that first session, and it's so funny because I remember, now having done so many, I don't always remember people's sessions, and I didn't think I would get to that point, but I remember yours because I had drawn a microphone. And I was like, I don't know what this microphone means. And, you and I were talking about all the ways what this microphone could be. And I just think it's funny that now we are sitting here with you speaking like this out of your comfort zone. But learning how at that point you did not think you had any sort of gift, right?
Mm-mm, not at all. Mm-mm.
And so you were going to see it intuitive to just seek guidance within your own life.
Yeah, there was always this part of me that was, it was almost like a calling, like, gosh, there's something else. There's something else out there. And I remember I even asked you, I said, hey, I'm really into cooking because I love to cook. And I remember you said, oh, yeah, you should keep doing that. And I said, well, I've been thinking about a cookbook. And you were like, yeah. But I remember you were a little hesitant. And now looking back, it's because through like our whole journey together, I had so much shame around food. And so that was a big part of our journey together too. And I guess I can elaborate on that one. I remember I met you because we would meet every week, and there was 2 weeks in a row, or maybe it was just 1 week. And you kept saying, gosh, there's just something that keeps happening over and over again. And you're not like listening. I thought, I have no idea what she's talking about. No idea what she's talking about. And then when, I'm in the closet, like binge eating, and I keep telling myself, oh, I'll be better tomorrow. I go, oh my gosh, that's what it is. And so I realized that I had a problem with food. I had a really terrible relationship with food, actually. Just I would binge eat until my stomach hurt because it was something that I could control. Because when I felt like I couldn't control something in my life, whether that's arguing with my husband or being really like irritated with my kids or work, all the daily stuff, food was something that was very comforting to me. And now that I understand that, oh, what I was really trying to find was comfort in myself. So I really just need to look inside and say, hey, what's going on? And find out the actual problem. And what's really funny is when I found out that, oh, sticking your finger down your throat isn't normal, or binge eating in your closet isn't normal. Oh, I see. And it really is stemmed from childhood. We have a lot of childhood trauma. But now I realize that through Reiki, I can really sit with myself, and I can do a session with myself and find out what really is going on. And I can find out where in my body am I feeling this. In addition to that, if I'm out and I'm feeling overwhelmed, because that I also do when I'm out, it's almost like I could feel just so much energy around me. I never felt alone. And so I would start to eat because it was just something like, I almost felt like I needed that weight, like this weight to ground me, when really I can ground myself. I don't need to I don't need to harm myself, or I don't really think it's harming, but you understand where I'm going with that. So that was a huge part of my journey with you, is realizing that. And now I can safely say that I really have dug myself out of a hole. But man, when I realized there was a problem, it got dark for a little while. And I started to gain weight. I was getting uncomfortable. And I still think there's something there that I'm embarking on. But I'm still healing a lot with that too.
That's a really good point, because thank you, Steph. Because we had met, and you, for the listeners to listen, you had gone through a journey with weight. So for them to know, you were a higher weight at one point.
Yeah. So I was about 130 pounds, and then I lost, I think it was like 65 pounds. And I was doing really great until I got to a really like low weight for me. And then I started, I don't know, it's almost like I shed this weight, and then I was feeling things more. And I was like, ooh, I don't like that. And then I was starting to do this whole like binge eating thing. And it was very interesting because it didn't happen while I was losing weight. It was when I lost the weight, I felt like I was almost like naked, and I had nothing to like arm myself with, if that makes any sense.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And so I think, and that is when we had connected after you had already gone, you were already, we'd gone through that, not through that journey, but through the first stage of that journey. And then you and I had met, and you had you had done some one-to-one sessions, the past life work, and then we started this mentorship. And so that's sort of what we've talked about now. And I think this is where, like, just listening to you talk about it, and sometimes a lot of people don't really understand, like they'll talk to me and say, well, what is this mentorship, and what does this course look like, and how is that outlined? And I always go back to say, well, there actually really isn't a course outline. And it has to be, I follow my intuition with the person, and I really pay attention to what's working for the person and how it's going to unfold. And some people don't understand that because they're so used to a course format, like week 1, we will meditate, we will do this, you will get this. And by week 12, you will, get your certificate. So I just thought, I've been watching you. We started that last February, right? I think it was, or at least that's when it was going to start. So I thought it would be so great for you to share, and I'm glad you brought that journal, how that mentorship looked for you. And then for me to be showing, because I know sometimes you don't always see your true shine, how me on the other side can show. I mean, even listening to you just say that part of what you've experienced when it comes to food is incredible. You really are honoring your true self. But what was that mentorship like?
So what I loved about it is that I never knew what to expect every week. And I would always keep asking you, so what am I supposed to work on this week? What am I supposed to check off? Like, what is it? And sometimes you would give me a task because you knew that I needed something, but really it was holding a space where we could really start to deep dive into what I needed at the time. And that was what's so amazing about it, is that some weeks, sometimes I would just babble, or like you would babble, and we'd have these like, we're like, I don't really know why I'm talking about this, but when I was 13, da 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 da. And then like this would be on a Tuesday, and then on Thursday I would go, oh, something would happen where I would understand why that story was told to me. And I would then realize, oh, okay, that's interesting. And I learned something different about myself. And then you would also almost be available. Not that I ever abused it, but I could text you anytime, whenever, because I mean, I have to say, when I started opening myself up to just the fact that, spirit is always around us. And like I had, I would actually see somebody, and it would never scare me. And I always felt like I could see things, but I could never really talk to anybody. So you held that space where I could say, oh my gosh, I was making dinner and my kids were at the table, and I just went to turn on the side, and I really saw somebody standing there. And I thought, gosh, I just don't know. Like, I would think like, oh, maybe I'm a little crazy. And you're like, no, let's talk about it, and I never felt, I don't know, I felt understood is really what the biggest part of your mentorship was. And yeah, it was really interesting. Like I was saying, I was going through my journal. So like I would have picture frames fall off like they would go crooked all the time. I would see, I never felt alone. I always talk to you about that too. And so we would go over, hey, whenever you feel this way, you would give me some techniques. So it would help me, because whenever I would meditate, I never felt alone. And I wanted that space to really go within. And so we would talk about that. We would talk about, okay, let's try this kind of a technique. And I think you had me like light a candle and have affirmations. But what was I going to say? I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, that's okay.
But really it was just opening up and knowing that we're all connected to spirit. All of us. We all are connected with energy. And also you would help me understand places in my body, because all the time I would feel things. Like if somebody asked me a question, I wouldn't even have to say yes or no. My body's already told me yes or no. So it was honoring that and saying, oh no, nope, this is what I should say. And instead of pleasing somebody, it's just honoring your truth and saying no, this, or if you have a boundary, learning those boundaries. Yes. And one of the best pieces of best pieces of advice that you gave me was you always said, whenever you don't know, ask up. I do it all the time.
Yes.
So I'll have like a question in myself, gosh, should I be doing this? And I will just ask up and immediately get the answer. Whereas I used to overanalyze everything. You'd say, well, I don't know, you know, but it's honoring that, just saying, nope, this is how it's supposed to be. And everything really does happen for a reason. And that was really hard for me to understand as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's like listening to all of those points, it's so great because yes, asking up is one of those hardest things for us, right? We want to know, like, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Why is this? And truly when you can sit back and go, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take a moment and I'm going to ask up and just say, what's the purpose? You usually will get the answer almost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you always will, whether you're comfortable with it or not, but it will sit with, you will get that. Okay, this is the purpose. This is the reason. But when you're saying in that mentorship, and I know that you would get frustrated sometimes in our conversation, not frustrated, but, wanting me to give you, a result, right? And what I always have said to people is we miss the nuances in conversations. Like we miss the importance of a nuance. And I know that often it's those that are actually what's so relevant. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So like being there with you and talking, whatever's coming through is so important. And the more we get into that space of understanding, holding space, rather than waiting for an outcome, that we get into what intuition is, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the more we can mentor somebody to and be with somebody to say that's all this is about, is learning to hold space, to have conversation, and then stay with that conversation throughout the week so that you're then slowing yourself down to go, I connect that sign to this conversation, to that piece. And now I see the flow. That it doesn't all have to be at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when I saw that flow for you, so beautifully, like it just was working so well in those weeks where you would go through it and then you'd be like, what does this mean? I don't know. And then it always clicked. Like you'd be like, it doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. And what if we unpack it a little bit, and then, okay, yeah, no, I get it now. I see. And really allowing that to land for you, not like, I always wanted to make sure you were okay with whatever, the final result was, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's so funny when we hear so if you actually just came in and say, hey, Steph, you really need to do A, B, and C, I'd be like, I wouldn't do it. It's just like a lot of people would go into psychics and they'd say, oh, or whoever, and they would say, oh, you really need to work on this. And you just don't do it. It's so important for us to find out those answers ourselves, because then you'll actually, because you got to discover that. I don't know what the difference is and why it's that way. I wish it was different, but you would never really tell me the answer. And yes, it would drive me absolutely crazy. But then I would always understand why later.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I see that now for people who want to come in and they're like, okay, just tell me, right? I would like to know when this is going to arrive and what this is going to be. And I always then say, okay, my question always is, what is the rush for that person? Because that's the actual intuition. So when they're asking me, I want to know when I'm going to get that next job. My immediate thing is to ask up and say, why are they so scared about what's happening for them right now? So then I sit with that to say, okay, well, where do we need to actually work? We don't need to work about any other next job. We need to focus on this. So that person, and then I'm sitting there going like in a short period of time in my head with this conversation over there, blah, 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 with listening to all these different things, going, okay, well, what is it that we actually need to focus on, and waiting for something over here to ping to give back to them. Mm-hmm. And they don't like it. because they're wanting the result of something in the future that hasn't even happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we look back to your first one, where the first thing you were looking for, right, where it might have been about recipes, or it might have been about something that you were looking for, that first session you booked, to where you are now, the path you've chosen because you've taken uncomfortable looks at yourself, the path is very different than it was a year and a half ago, right?
Oh, absolutely. I came to you because I wanted to find my purpose.
Yes.
That was the biggest thing. I was like, I know I'm not living my purpose. What is it? Just tell me what it is.
And I knew,
I'm sure you knew.
No, I knew for you that you wanted to find that purpose. Mm-hmm. So then it was, she wants to find it. So then for you to find it means it's going to be, you were ready to go on that journey. So yes, somebody might say, oh, your purpose is going to be this. But that's not going to be a passionate purpose. That's going to be somebody giving an answer, right? Mm-hmm. And so instead it was, let's give a few little nuggets to support a person who's really ready. And then from that, do you want to talk about the channeling?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So going back to when you were saying that, yes. I just wanted somebody to tell me, I think I even messaged you saying, I just want somebody just to tell me, because you hear on podcasts all the time, oh, I went to the psychic and she told me that I was going to be a medium, and I thought, oh, you're crazy. And here I am 5 years later and I'm a full-time medium. And I was like, I want that message. What is it? And, yeah, I didn't get that message, but that's okay. I did later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was something that I came to you because I knew that the visions that I would have, they were real and there was meanings. I just didn't know how. I didn't understand them. And so what we would do, so specifically for channeling, so we had this little, what would I call it? Spirit messages. I would do it every morning and I would just sit for somebody. And for you, I believe it would be automatic, it would be writing.
Yeah.
It's probably the same thing. Okay. And so I would just write down, and at first it would just be these very simple images, like a bird, a flower. I wouldn't know what kind of flower, but it was a flower, a flag or whatever it was. So I would write it down. And then I would let you know. So sometimes would do it for you, I would do it for a friend, and I would just let them know, hey, this is what I'm seeing right now. I don't know. But it would always relate to something they were going on in their life. And I'm like, okay, so maybe, I am understanding it. So now I'm able to really sit with it. If I'm being honest, I haven't done it in a little while, only because I've been really focusing on Reiki. But it is a beautiful, everybody has it if you just sit and just trust the process. For me, it's a knowing and visions. I sometimes do smell things, not really taste, but it's almost like a white screen that kind of comes up. It's like a movie screen. It kind of but the images are so fast. So it is like charades. So you really have to so I used to write everything down and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to analyze it all. And now I just let it flow. And then I know that whatever is meant for me to remember, I'm just going to remember it.
Yes.
Because that was hard for me. That's where I was so frustrated. I was, Cindy, I'm so frustrated because I don't know what this means. And yeah. So really it's just trusting the process and saying, nope, whatever is meant to be said, it's going to be said.
And that was, I think, part of the work too, was because as we were going through that, right, working on, I think we had just said at one point, right, just give these morning messages. You sat, I think it was under a door frame, right? Or something like that's where you felt the best energy was under. And so for anyone to hear this, if I could see you, show them you last, February even, when I had offered this to you, this mentorship, and you really not knowing what it was going to look like, how it was going to feel. And then suddenly all of this opening for you. And I remember one day you'd written a note to me and said, something about red lipstick. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was such it was such a profound message, which you didn't realize how profound that would be for me in that time. I was like, oh my gosh, it was such a simple statement. And it just, you were like, I think you need to wear red lipstick today. But then really what I had said, it actually means more to me than you. And so I took it metaphorically. And so how we can learn that for ourselves, even as we're giving messages, right? Which is something I think is tricky for intuitives, that sometimes they want to give their own interpretation of the message rather than simply giving the message to the person. And that's something I know we've worked on, right? Because we give the message of you, this is what you need, whereas the other person's taking it in like, I know exactly what that means. And so that was such powerful learning, right? Like it was so great. And I just remember that for a week going, she has no idea how she's just transformed like so much in my, oh no, totally.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I never regret, I don't hold back, right? The times you hold back, I totally regret it. I'm like, man, I should have told her that, but, or what, whatever is coming through, even if it's something that I maybe something I just do not understand. Like I'm seeing a tricycle. I don't know what I mean, but there you go. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, and they'll have a message. I'm like, oh, it landed. Okay. And then I'm like, okay, that was just another reassurance. Just say it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so
but I have to say there is sometimes where I almost get this nudge that says, don't say anything, which is interesting. Doesn't happen often, but when it does.
Yes, there's lots of times, right? I hold back on a majority of my messages, because I think that if you overshare, then you take the power away from the person to create their own knowledge. So there's lots of messages, I think it's the same, right? If they're like, tell me when this and this is this, you're like, well, I could probably write, right? Like you could probably find that out. But if you give them all of that, then they're basically either, I find this is what would happen, because I've done it when I've gone to a psychic myself, is they go and they go and tell me something, and then I immediately, it's not their fault, but it's like for the next 2 or 3 years think, well, that psychic told me that A or B or C was going to happen. And so for some reason, it's like in your head that's what they said. They're a well-known psychic. It's gonna, like, they've got a great reputation. So therefore, nothing else is gonna shape or change my opinion because that psychic told me. And that doesn't always fit well with me. So I've always liked the way of you're going for an intuitive guidance for somebody who can support you in the now and give you some tools, but won't freeze you.
That's a really different way of looking at it. I didn't think about that, because I used to really seek that. Like, oh, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. And now I don't anymore. Because you're right. It really does just take, like, you are your own roadmap. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yes.
I didn't.
Yeah, no, I was, well, yeah, because I was in a session the other day and I could tell the woman was irritated almost, right? But why would I want to take your power away? I'm so happy to work with you. So happy. And in that session, like you're saying, all the things that became unraveled to you in our work together, that's something greater than the two of us. And that's intuition, in my opinion. And that allows you to remain way more powerful than you ever would have been.
Absolutely. Yes.
So if you want to share a little bit about Reiki and how Reiki, and like how that has transformed your life?
Well, okay. So for me, it really helped with my anxiety. I have had really bad anxiety since I was in I think it was like 22. I remember I was in this movie theater and we were going to see a new Batman movie. And I remember just in the beginning, all the buildings were coming down or something. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was out of my body and my heart was just racing. I was sweating. My hands were like ice cold and I was just in total shock. And it was the first time I ever had like an anxiety attack. And so when I first had my first session with you, which was so funny, you actually experienced it, all of a sudden your heart started racing and you couldn't breathe. And I remember even going, oh, do you have the sweats? And is your hands cold? Yeah, that's my anxiety. And I remember you being so like, oh my God, I have never experiencing like something like that before. And it really is such a scary place to be. Anyway, now understanding energy in general. When I'm out and I'm starting to feel a little bit of pressure or I just know something's happening, I realize now that I'm actually in very much control of it. So there is so much power with your breath, just your breath, and realizing what's yours is yours. And I always say, what's mine is mine, which means my energy is mine. And what's theirs is theirs. So other people's energies, because sometimes I'm just overwhelmed with where I am. And that's where my anxiety can come through. And so my heart is starting to race. I'm like feeling somebody else in the room sometimes. No, not all the time. And so I'll just realize, I'll say, no, what's mine is mine, what's theirs is theirs. And I take a deep breath and really just focus on the inhale and exhale and really focus on my stomach, that it's going all the way down, taking really good breaths. And it will disappear. Whereas I used to just grab a Xanax out of my purse, when I'm having a panic attack. So Reiki really just gave me a sense of calm and clarity. And it gave me we talk about control all the time, because that's something that's in my life all the time, is if I don't feel in control, it just kind of unravels for me. So it helps me just kind of clear my head. And so I love every time I have a Reiki session, I come out of it, I feel like I'm on cloud 9. I am so light and just relaxed, and I can take on like any task. When I get to do that for somebody else, it's an honor. And when I did level 1, I remember I was starting to have doubts, like, is this really for me? Is this really something that I should bring into my life? And anytime I would think about it, my hands would start tingling. It was so funny. And it would always be when I was driving. It's very interesting. And I would go, oh, okay, maybe Reiki's my thing. Okay, so I'm just going to go try level 2, And level 2, I could just feel it in my body. Whenever I think about it, I can feel like I'm radiating. It's very interesting. And I just get so excited. I just absolutely love doing it for other people. I want to do more in person. Everybody who I've had where I'm able to do it in person, they've all been it's such a beautiful experience. Usually they end in tears, but in the best way possible. And I've had a couple of women who have walked out just like they had something really heavy on their heart and they were able to find peace and have like decision or however they want. Can't really share like what it was, but yes. So I do a lot of distance Reiki. I really enjoy doing it because I wake up so early to work out. So I just do it in the morning and usually everybody's asleep. And it's great because the person is calm and I'm able to really work with them. But it's also beautiful when they are meditating because they get to experience it with you. Whereas I feel like when they're sleeping, they get a beautiful message from me that tells them like, hey, this is what I felt, or this is what I saw. Sometimes images come through. I just let them know what it was. But when they're meditating, it's really beautiful because they come out of it and they, oh my gosh, I felt tingling on my head, or I felt something touching my hand, or where you're working, and then you get to tell them like, yeah, I was really focusing on this area of your body, and ooh, I'm feeling a sharp pain on your rib, I'm not sure why, and then they'll let you know, oh, this is why. So I'm always really shocked when I come out because it's just, how would I know any of this stuff? I don't know. So yeah, I hope I explained that well.
No, I think it's beautiful. That's exactly the way I explain it, right? Which is why, I mean, you've now done level 3 as well. And that was, I always think that when I did level 3 myself, it was such the level 1 to level 2, exactly. It just was that huge, like, shift for me, where it was like, this is a calling for me. I knew there was something in it for me, energy work. And as soon as I got that level 2 within me, I just like you. And then it just flew. So I think you explained it so well. It's trying to explain the unexplainable.
Yes.
And as I say, I always say to people, I don't even really need to explain it to you. Just come and enjoy it. Because that's all that matters. It's universal life force energy, and it's there. And yeah, in level 3, I remember when you were there, well, you were on camera, but Jen was there, and we were doing the pendulum over each one of her chakra points. And that was incredible, like, because I was learning it the same as you, right, to do it with somebody else. And watching as the pendulum, which is a small, like a necklace for those who don't understand. And I was using it over each one of the 7 chakras to show how a pendulum can sway if that chakra is out of alignment. And these are the kind of things where I go like, gosh, what we can learn at each level, right? Like, it's just more information for you to carry on with what the work you're doing. There's just so much. It's hard to even do it all. But when it's your passion, because I know that you've tried a few different things that you're looking at to try to figure out what your gift is, like you've got many gifts, but what you really want to sink your teeth in. And I always say energy. How are you feeling now?
Really good. So I thought, oh, I got to keep doing courses, right? So I started looking and dabbling into other things. And while I totally respect and love other techniques, Reiki's like home for me.
Yeah.
It's always something that it's just, and you said it's unexplainable. It is something I think a huge shift for me is when I finally said, instead of trying to please other people I was always trying to make sure that they understood that I knew what I was doing. Like, I was trying to get validated. Now I just go into it like, well, let's just try it. And it's been like every session has been so different, drastically different when I just let go of that. But with other energy healing, like I said, every option is great. I think it's like a diet or anything really out there. There's so many options. And it can be so overwhelming because you're going to think, oh my gosh, I have to do them all. When really it's no, you got to just find that what works for you. And so I think, yeah, I've just recently decided that I'm really just going to be focusing on Reiki for a while.
Yes.
Because like I said, it feels like home. It's something that just makes so much sense to me. That's all. It's hard to explain.
Well, no, it's not hard to, I think you're explaining it perfectly, and knowing that within it, like, as you had said, you didn't get the message that you are a medium, but obviously you are, right? Like, so there's all these things that you have got that you combine together, is then taking that next step to know what you want to do with it, right?
Yes.
And how you want to incorporate it, which you will decide how you do that at any point. But I think for other people to hear, it's just really great for people to hear somebody who went to go and see an intuitive for the message of something, right? Well, what their life purpose is, and how that evolved to basically a year and a half of work together, where you then were like thinking one thing to suddenly you are channeling a medium and doing energy work yourself.
Isn't that crazy?
Not at all. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, but it was just funny because when I was in it, I thought, oh, I should be doing more. I should be doing more. Because we always think, oh, I'm not doing enough. No, we're all doing enough.
Enough. And so, and that's like, yeah, like if you have a message for other people that were seeking like, what would you want people to know? Because I know sometimes lots of people are scared that they're going to be judged for doing this, or that they're going to be looked at. Like, what are some of the things that have held you back from sharing? And what would you want others to know who really might be trying to control their lives in unhealthy ways in order to not really be their true selves?
Yeah. Well, I didn't actually read the book, if I'm being honest. It was on a podcast. It really resonated with me.
I like that you're very honest. Yeah.
Okay. So it was about a woman who worked at hospice. And so I don't remember the name of the book. I'll have to find that. So she was there by the bedside, right? And so she found like a common theme. One of them was that 90%, if not more, everyone would say, I wish I lived truest to myself and not to please other people or to be judged. I wish I just lived a life that was truest to myself. And man, that hit me hard. I thought, oh, because we have this whole journey here. We already chose it. You might as well just live it. And then the second one was don't work too hard, right? Because work is always going to be there. And the other one was to keep in touch with your friends, because so many people would be alone, and they would say, man, I really wish that I nourished those relationships that I had in my life. But the first one was, yeah, I mean, and your people will find you. They're going to find you. Yes. And yes, you're going to be in a dark spot, but the light's going to come. And yeah, I don't know, that quote really hit me, or that book that he was talking about really hit me hard, because it's true. Why are we pretending to be somebody else? And why are we giving a shit about what other people think?
I think that's such a big, like, so yeah, now I want to go a little, sorry. I want to ask the question about the dark, like getting like, because I think to prepare people about it, because even though I would say I'm in the happiest, I am so content with who I am. When you get to that space of really trusting your own journey, it does come with different shadows than when you kind of were living the I don't want to I'll call it a sleep life, but the life that, you don't always look within. That comes with heaviness too. But this is like, you really have to kind of look at the inside stuff, like, because you're no longer judging. You're not really judging other people. You really come back to yourself. So every time something happens in life, you do become very self-reflective. Like, why am I reacting that way? Why am I doing that? Okay, I need to sit with this. How did that happen? Why did I do that? And that might not have happened in your lives or in your life before, because you would have gone to distractions. You would have gone to maybe binge eating. You would have gone, whatever our things were. So it does make it uncomfortable at times. So what was the really shadowy time for you? Was that when you went back to old habits of eating?
No, actually, I don't want to get scared of getting attuned for Reiki.
No, yeah.
But that was a part of it. Level 1, all of these insecurities would creep up, right? And I felt so alone, and I was frustrated, and I couldn't pinpoint it for the longest time what I was going through. I realize now that really I was really like shedding some things in my life and really finding the root and understanding, oh, I feel this way because I never felt heard before. And now I feel heard. And so there was a relationship at the time that I thought, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, should I go ahead and have this person out of my life? is this really the problem? That really wasn't the problem. That was just I think this is the problem because it's so easy to target.
Right.
And I mean, I cried a lot. I cried in the van. I cried in the car. I was really shedding, like, and looking back, like I had never, well, I have been in this spot, but it was, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. But no, I definitely went to alcohol and food that was starting to have old habits creep in. And then really what helped me was journaling and just not holding back and just putting exactly how I felt. No matter how ugly it was, I didn't want it to hold space in my brain anymore. I wanted to put it on paper so I could just let it go.
Yes.
And something that we also learned, well, you taught me, was we were talking about being present. And you said it quite a bit. And I thought I understood it until I realized, no, I still need to revisit that little concept. It's just so little, because a book, literally, I'm not even kidding, it fell on the ground. I like looked at it and I go, oh, okay, it's about being present. And then I put it back. And then I walked away and it fell down. And I turned around and I was like, okay, I guess I'm buying it. So I'm learning that, yeah, that's also a big piece into my life. And I'm sure a lot of others is we are so on autopilot. And when you're eating, when we're driving, when we're talking to our kids, when we're doing the dishes, we're not present into the actual thing that we're doing. And so especially when you're going into a dark spot, it's really, really important to come back to the present moment and stop living in the past, because that's what I was doing.
So huge. Like, I think yes. Because one of the biggest things I say all the time to people is, like, life is not perfect, but to be like, when you're in the car, it's like, okay, well, now I'm in the car. Like, I try really hard to be, if I go with the shower, I'm going to be just in the shower. I try to just remain in that space, because that's when you do get a lot more signs too, right?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Open your eyes. Oh
Yes.
yeah. What would you,
Eyes wide
I'm driving
open.
with my eyes wide open. Yes.
Yes.
And I say it all the time. And I do, so I like to journal, but if I'm being honest, I'm extremely inconsistent with it. My time in the van by myself is my journaling time. So I talk out loud. I know someone's listening. And so that one, and just like meditating. I don't have time to meditate. Well, guess what? I work out and that's when I meditate.
Yes.
Or in the shower. So there is little pockets of time. It isn't a like, oh, it's 6 a.m. I got to check off for 30 minutes. No, it can just be little pockets throughout your day.
Yes.
But
it was reframing for you, right? I think that's the biggest thing, which and we should explain, you have 2 very young children, a dog, you basically live on a farm. I don't even, like, there's chickens, there's so many things there. It's huge. And your husband's away a lot. Well, he's in the military, right? Like, he's yeah, or that's the right word, right? Or is it?
Yeah, totally. Yep. And I work full time, and
Yeah.
I have so much respect for single moms. I don't know how you do it.
But I mean,
well, you just do it.
I think but just for people to understand, you said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And so I know that what that's like. It's not going to be like, okay, so you have 5 days a week to just, determine what that's going to look like. Like, it does mean some days all you've got is your shower. So choose your shower. And, but we do have time, like you say, it's how you find the time, how you create the time. And if it's while you're stirring pasta, that's when you create time to meditate.
I know. I watched this one gal. She's a psychic medium. She has all these courses. I just really enjoy listening to her, but I have to say it irritates me so much when she talks about, oh, I just got out of an hour-long meditation. I'm like, when do you have time to do that? But I get it. It's full time for her. So I'm just going to continue putting in the universe that I would like that time. And then one day I'm going to get that time.
Yes.
But now it's not that time. But also Reiki, it does. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. No, you go.
Oh, I was just saying Reiki sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, it's just not going to look perfect at all. And sometimes you're going to be in it for only like 10, 15 minutes and you're done. And you have to go do something else. And that's okay. And you just have to reset. And that was really hard for me to understand too, was trying to find like, oh, what time do I need to do this? And how long do I need to do it for? And I always thought, oh gosh, I didn't do it for the full time. I don't know.
I think that's great. Like, I think knowing, yeah, like, so are you meaning distance Reiki, like when you send Reiki to another person? And so you've been really good at, like, I always say my sessions are going to be about 15 to 20 minutes, but when the energy ends, and that's just what it is. And for you, I know, I always know when your session's done, you can just sort of feel the energy's finished. And I know at the beginning you used to say they were like 10, 11 minutes, like, but that's how long you would keep it. But it was really powerful. Like, so what you could get done in 10 minutes, somebody else was getting done in 15 or 20, right? Like, there's no time. But I think that's true for us as humans. We want to know, like, when they say you have to get through all these things and it lasts this long, then you're like, okay, well, how come I don't feel it anymore and I'm done at 10 minutes? Like, do I go back? How do I, but so those are good points for people. And do you do Reiki on yourself every day?
No, I should.
No, I don't either. I'm curious.
Oh. I was like, wait a minute. Is this my check mark?
Do you know Reiki? No, I don't. I really should as well. It is something, again, if we had the hour for our meditations, we would do that too. But I was curious for you because I know for other people and for myself, I can't feel Reiki on myself. I know it's still working, but I know that the majority of people can't actually feel Reiki like you can. Like, if I immediately send to you, I can feel it in my hands. But if I do Reiki on myself, I can't feel it. So
yeah, I can't feel it on myself. I do see lights, but that's about it. Not that, like, because you want that feeling, because it's so amazing when you're doing it for somebody else. And I wish I had that for myself, but that's okay.
And when you were saying about, I have just more questions for you. When you were saying about how, it's helped you, Reiki's really been helpful for you for moving through things. And if you're needing to sit with a problem and then you do Reiki, what is an example of that where, I mean, I know you talked about anxiety, but is there another example that you could give of in your life where you were like, I'll just give myself Reiki and then move past that? Like, do you Reiki and then?
Because it doesn't have to be long. And it's actually when I'm feeling the urge to, like, really eat a ton of stuff. If I'm being honest, I will take a second, pause, and really, I just spend 5 minutes and just do a little Reiki, and then I set an intention to my water or whatever is happening in front of me. And that's how I use it. I don't do a full 20 minutes on myself. I probably should, like we said, but for it it brings a calmness to me. So it kind of just brings me back, because when I want to eat and I want to binge, I'm having an out of body experience because I don't want to be in my body. So when I have Reiki, it helps me ground. It helps me come back and say, hey, what's going on? Let's fix the actual problem.
That is really good. I didn't realize that that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it's very, I black out. I swear I won't remember. And it's not like I'm drunk. Nothing to do with alcohol. It's actually with food. It's the craziest. It's very interesting. Yeah, I completely black out, and I will come back when I'm like so full and I feel disgusting. And I sit in this like very depressed, dark space. And then I tell myself, oh, it'll be better tomorrow. It'll just be better tomorrow. And I wouldn't let anybody see it. My husband would be outside and I would run in the closet and just, it Isn't that so crazy? It's
It's not
interesting.
crazy. It's
I know that I'm not alone for
Yes.
sure. I know other women or men and women experience this. But really it's you don't want to be in your body anymore. You're looking for something to completely distract you. Some people use social media, which I still do that too. But yeah, food, and I used to use alcohol a lot. That was a couple years ago. And that was because I was really depressed, and that was before I had my children. Every single night I would have a couple glasses of wine or whatever, and I would just sit on the couch, and I was just I was really depressed, and I had no idea. And then after I had my children, I was never diagnosed with postpartum depression, but I definitely had postpartum depression. And that's when the food, because when I was pregnant, I was pregnant, so I can eat as much as I want. I can eat whatever I want because I'm pregnant. And yeah, and that's where I introduced myself to, there's other ways to numb myself, and that was through food.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's so many women and men who deal with this on a regular basis, right? And I know I talked to Cody about that on a previous podcast. I don't know if you heard that one, but Cody had been on a year ago or so, and then she came back on sharing about her issue with food. And it is something I think that we don't, I mean, we do talk about openly, but sometimes you don't realize how close it is to you and all of the different people who are doing it. So I think it is so good to talk about. And then how that feels like you're not in your body. I wouldn't have seen it like that.
Yeah. And there was just so much shame around food, because it was always, this is good, this is bad. So right now I'm teaching myself to unlearn that. Right. So even my daughter said the other day, I shouldn't have so many sweets because that's bad. I'm like, that's where it started. Okay. And just kind of educating her about, nothing is bad. Why are we saying everything's good and bad?
I know it's a really that's a whole other conversation, but I know even
Yes.
just in a childcare setting, I'll go in, and it's not out of nobody's doing it out of ill intent, but you'll see the staff, and there'll be 20 children all sitting down, and all of them have packed lunches from their families. And then the teachers will come along, and they'll be like, you can have your carrots and your apple, and you can have then your sandwich, but you can't have your yogurt, and you can't have your cookie, and you can't have your this. And I look at them and just say, why? Like, why? If the parents packed that lunch, then I would say all of it can get eaten in any order or any fashion. Like, let's just leave that to the parent. And if the child eats the cookie and nothing else, then maybe tomorrow the parent won't pack one thing, right? But you sitting there and walking around and telling them one's good, one's bad, well, then at the age of 2, they've realized at this point, they don't need to know that. Just let them eat the food. But we do that so early and just say that one's bad and that one's good. And I wonder if we just said okay, eat the cookie, but don't eat the carrot because carrot's really bad. If suddenly we'd all be in the society of wanting carrots, right?
Yes.
Because we're just manufactured that way. If you tell me it's not something I should have, well, then I want it.
We always want what we can't have. Yeah. Yes. Because I think that with my relationship with food, it really started when I was younger. Actually, this is a really funny story. Okay, so I was staying home. I was young, so I could stay home alone, and my mom would go to work. And I would eat a box of macaroni and cheese, 1 box for breakfast, 1 box for lunch, and 1 box for dinner. It was my comfort food. It was something that I just loved, and I just ate way too much of it. So my mom and bless her heart, like she obviously didn't know any better. She actually grounded me from macaroni and cheese. She wouldn't let me eat it because she just said, and she said, she said, "You're going to thank me when you're older." And it really stuck with me.
Yes.
So still to this day, I have this emotional attachment with macaroni and cheese. Isn't that so interesting? And before that, because I was, everybody's bullied. Well, not everybody. That's not true. That's not true. But I was targeted for my weight. I mean, I had acne, I had glasses, I had headgear. I mean, I was the
you
whole.
had a few rocks to climb.
Yes. So yeah, so it's just interesting when you look back, you know, and of course I don't blame her at all, but it's just funny when you see for certain things throughout your childhood. So yeah, so now with my children, I'm trying to educate them about just having a really healthy relationship with food, and really not so much saying this is bad, this is good. It's more of a, how does it make you feel after you eat it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I care about. And so Riley, my daughter, she'll tell me, you know, "Oh, you know, my stomach hurt." I said, "Okay. So hey, next time, let's just remember that maybe you just need a little less or nothing at all. And we can just find something to replace that." And then we move on. So
I agree. I think that's just it. But being aware of where these things come from, right? As you start to open yourself up, all of these things from childhood, and like you're saying, it's not your mom's fault. No, like there's no reason to be blaming. I mean, some things people can blame on their parents. I totally understand that. But a lot of things that happen in childhood, parents were doing the very best they could with what the tools that they had. And if we can become aware of that and know that for ourselves, but also know then we just have to sort of deal with it, just like our kids are going to be dealing with the best tools that we have, right? Like each generation. But now that you're in this space for yourself, I think it's just really honoring that you're not going backwards, you're going forwards. Like it's an exciting time. And in your area, are people open to energy? How are you finding people welcome Reiki?
So not a lot of people know about Reiki around me.
Yes.
But I think it's so beautiful to be able to experience that with them, because they just get to experience it without even having any expectations.
Yeah.
So no, not a lot of people know about Reiki around here. In fact, I think I looked up in our town. There is a gal who does Reiki out of her house, but I've never been. But there was only one person that I could find in the area.
So exciting. You're just opening.
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeling like you're so you're saying you're ready to do it in person? Are you feeling more like in this year you may expand to do more?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I just got done painting my room. I have a room that I would like to do Reiki out of. And so, yes, it is my goal this year to really open up and be able to have more in person or distance. I really love distance, and it's only because of my schedule, but I would love to just do once in a while and in person. They're so beautiful. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So if you had, so you said one piece, if somebody was wondering if they should come in to do any sort of energy work or dive in for themselves, like what would you tell people to do? Like what piece of advice would you give to somebody who was just beginning this journey?
Go into it as let's just try it. Don't set expectations. Just go into it with a very playful, open mind.
Nice.
Because I feel like expectations is what really kills the mood, you know? You know what I mean? It does. You just have to go into it.
Love it.
With anything in life.
I love it. You're so right. Now, is there one page from your journal that if you were just to flip it open right now, we could just read a little? Would it not be appropriate? Can we see?
I don't know. Oh, I was doing spirit messages. Yeah. Oh, for you, I have Cindy.
Oh, right there.
I saw flower, grandfather, and it says rollerblades. You're gonna fall, but that's okay. That's what I put.
Oh, that's lovely.
That is interesting.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I have here. And then for me, it was just talking about a doorway.
Oh, yes, doorway. Yeah.
Yeah, just as a doorway. Because it's funny because, like, I don't know about you, but when I am channeling or writing, I forget afterwards.
Yes.
So it's like hard for me to come back, because I know I've talked to some, people who I've worked with, and they'll come back and say, oh my gosh, do you remember, 2 weeks ago when you said this? And it's really hard for me to remember. And so I try to keep my notes, because sometimes I can trigger memory, but I almost feel like I should record it, like a video or a voice message. So maybe that would help me remember.
Yes.
But I should do more spirit messages. I haven't done those in a little while.
I like that idea. That could be a really great idea on your new Instagram page. A little Stephanie message.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yep. And what, just gonna throw it out there, give you a bit of sparkle and see if you take it. What is your favorite cup of bliss?
Oh gosh. I know I had told you I drink a tea. I'm so boring. I drink so much water. I really just drink coffee and water.
Yeah, that's good. How many cups of water do you drink in a day?
I drink 100 ounces a day. Yes.
So
yeah.
Really good.
I know. Well, it's because for a long time, that was my goal. It was always, so I still have like that mindset of, and so I always have a water bottle, and I know how much I'm drinking a day, and I always shoot for 100 ounces a day. I know. It's just something.
Well,
but I feel so good.
I was going to say, that's actually like one to keep. Like, that's a very good, I should keep that.
Yes. And I love how you always told me to set an intention. Even with my water, I still do it.
Yeah. Oh no, always. Like, that's one of the most beautiful, right? Just when you're setting an intention with your water, and then you're drinking in pure, beautiful. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. I love having this chat with you, and I love hearing all the things that you are doing. It's beautiful reminders for me too, because I don't even remember, like you say, I don't always remember half the things that that we talk about. They come out from somewhere else. So,
so good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I know I will always be seeing you. So, looking forward to Steph messages. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.